happens when we create what I call it established clear boundaries. Um, as a parent, I can clearly remember what it meant to help make sure that my daughter knew what my values, my standards, my beliefs, and my expectations are. So often, children will say to me, I know what my mom fuss about. I know what my dad will get upset about, but I don't always know what they value. I don't know what they expect from me. And when we are, as parents, as a leader in the home, leaders provide guidance, leaders show the way. And so, as a leader in the home, you are the ones who lay the foundation that will help our children know what are the standards, what are the values, what are the expectations. And so you may say, well, how can I do that, Arlene? Well, one of the ways you can do that is by creating what I call, in the business world, we do vision boards, we do goals, we do strategic planning. Well, in our families, we can set our family goals. We can establish our family mission statement, and we can ensure that that mission and our goals are displayed in our home so that our children are always reminded of who we are and what we stand for. And so I encourage our families to create your family mission statement if you haven't done that. I've done activities with families where we create their family crest, and they're able to put what their values, standards, beliefs are for their family. And so that is a strategy that you can use. That is one we use in our leadership in the business world, but in our homes, we are leading also. And our children are looking for us to be the example that provides the structure that allows them to thrive. And the way we do and we create that environment and that structure that allows them to thrive is by us setting the parameters, setting the infrastructure. So after we've done our values and our goals and our mission and we clearly have together as a family understood who we are and what we stand for, the next thing is how do we walk it out? How do we live it in our daily lives as a family? And so in our family unit, what I encourage all our families to do as we step into this new school year and we look at the landscape of all the challenges and the obstacles that are going on, to really reel in the family time and ensure that your children feel safe in your home. What children say to me, so many kids have said to me over the years, they say, Miss Arlene, home is not a safe place. It is the place that I have the greatest challenge. Well, parents, we have the opportunity to adjust that if that is true, right? That's a true statement for so many children. And I know as a parent, we believe we are doing, and most parents are, we're doing the best we can for our children. And we strive to make sure they get the very best. And there are sometimes little things that we overlook and little missteps that we may find can really help them experience the abundance of joy, peace, and growth we are looking for them to have. And so, one of the other things that I would encourage us to do as we step into the school year and we're creating that infrastructure, remember that in our role as parents and in our leadership posture, we are managers. We are the managers and orchestrators of our home. We are managing everything. We are managing our meals. We are managing the time that they're going to bed. We are managing lunch preparation. We are managing, homework. We're managing the behaviors that are in the house. We are constantly in a management zone with our families. And so when you think about your role as a parent, right? And you think about all the things that we juggle as a parent, right? How can we do that with the opportunity to what I call reducing the stress? My daughter will say, sometimes the stress came because we're rushing, right? Because we fail to do what we know is important, and that is prep. Preparation is important, right? When we prep, we are more in position to execute those things that are required of us. And so the thing that I encourage our parents to do is to prepare. Prepare. We cannot ever over prepare. Prepare the lunches, prepare the uniform, make sure the book bag is in a consistent place that the kids know where to put it. Little tips and little strategies in terms of preparation and our kids knowing and having a routine that aligns with our values and ensures that we are creating an atmosphere where stress is reduced. Because how many of you can recall, getting ready for school in the morning and you're rushing around and the kids forgot to put the notebook in the bag and the lunch is not prepared and they can't find their sneaker and there's all this hustle and bustle and it adds to anxiety. And then before you know it, us as parents, we are fussing, our voices are elevated and the tension is mounting in the house, right? So by the time we rush to the car, we are rushing, right? And so the atmosphere of tension has already developed. And what does that mean for that child to go to school with that level of tension and frustration that we just experienced from the morning? But we can change that and we can adjust that both for ourselves as well as for our children. We could ensure that we create the environment that allows the reduction of stress, where we both had time as the parents and the children to enjoy a breakfast together. It may not be every day, but we strive to do that. Have that breakfast time together, check in with each other, have some, I like to do devotions or have affirmations, an opportunity to check in and get your mind straight before you step out the door. Home is supposed to be the safe haven. And we, as the leaders in our house, have the opportunity to set the temperature and to really ensure that our children have an environment where they feel safe to share, they feel safe to grow, they feel safe and supported, and they feel encouraged. So the other thing I want to just share with us as leaders in our home is how we are speaking with our children and not at our children. Parents, as the leader, we set the example, and the manner in which we communicate with our children, it teaches them how to communicate with others. They learn not just by what we say, but they learn by the behavior we model. So we want to make sure that our behavior is modeling the values and standards that we want to exemplify. If we say that we're about peace and tranquility and that we value love and we value respect, then those beliefs should be modeled in how we operate. So my last thing, and I'm sure I'm coming close to my time, is that we can ensure that as parents, we are modeling the behavior. And so when we talk about communicating with our children, right, there's a difference when we're talking at them and when we're communicating with them. When we're communicating with them, there's a thing that I would like to encourage our parents to do. Parents, let's lean in. Let's listen more and talk less. Let's not be quick to have an opinion, but really hear what our children are trying to say or express to us. There's a lot going on in their brains. There's a lot of information they're processing. There's a lot of information that's coming to them on a daily basis. And we as the parent are supposed to be the vehicle to help them filter and understand what is going on in their world. And so part of our interaction and conversation is not to negate what's happening around them and dismiss it, but to help our children process it. Okay? A lot of our children oftentimes are involved with their technology, and our parents are absent, and we don't know what they're watching, what they're listening to, what they're absorbing. And so I really encourage parents to begin to really ensure that you're filtering the engagement with technology and you're helping them process. And we can do that by, if we're going to watch the news or if they're going to be exposed to news, expose the news with them, experience it with them, So you can have the opportunity to have dialogue, to have conversation, and help them process what they just saw or what they just heard so that they can understand context. Okay? We are supposed to do that. If we don't, what happens is they step out into the world and the world gives them context and the world gives them their values and their perspective. And before you know it, your leadership posture begins to deteriorate because your voice is not being heard. Your values are not being shared. So it's so important as parents that we really ensure that we are modeling. And so my last thing, parents, right, is that we are making sure that we are spending quality time, not just together, right? And having fun and ensuring laughter is in the home, but we are also making sure we are practicing wellness. We are getting enough sleep. We are making sure we're eating, and we're making sure we are doing those things that nourish the body. And so I am so excited that I have with me tonight Miss Lorraine Campbell. She is a board certified health coach. And, you know, I have known Lorraine and watched her parent, watch her operate in a leadership role in the community, watch her serve. And I know the heart of this wonderful woman who's going to share with you how we can be making sure that we are elevating the health and wellness of our families when we are thinking about how we prepare our children to go beyond the backpack and to really ensure that they are equipped for learning. Lorraine Campbell.
Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. So, my name is Lorraine Campbell. I am a board certified health coach. But most important, just like many of us here today, I'm a parent, I'm a mom. I've had those mornings that Arlene talked about that you can't find the shoe, you can't find the homework, you can't find the book bag because we didn't prepare. And being prepared is the most important thing that you can do to add structure to your child's life and to make your life that much more easier. But it does take planning. So, how do we go about planning? Well, the first thing we want to do is when we're asking our kids to leave home, you drop them at school at between 7 to 8 o'clock, depending on your child's school time it starts. And they're there until 2:30, 3 o'clock. That's a long time. And we're sending them to a place where we want to have their brain stimulated. But to stimulate a child's brain, you have to feed the body. And you have to feed the body well. We can't send our kids to school on Pop-Tart and dry cereal and ask them to be A students. You can't get water out of a dry well. So let's step back and look at some of the things that we can do to prepare ourselves a week or 2 weeks before school starts, depending on where you are. So the first thing you want to do is clear out your refrigerator. If it has an expiration date on there, if it's got some mold growing on there, if you've pushed it in the back of the refrigerator, clear out the refrigerator. But just don't clear it out by yourself. Make it a family project. Because when you make things a family project, it becomes just as important to your child as it is to you, because they're part of a household. This is a business. It's a tribe. It's a union. So you have to make them part of it. Clear out your cabinets. Get everything organized, because if they see you preparing for it and you come with a good attitude, they'll have a good attitude. And that is important. The next thing is we want to think about what types of foods do we want to feed our kids, because most of us have control over breakfast during the week. Many kids will have a school lunch and then we have dinner. So let's talk about breakfast. When we say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day for a child, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. If you mess it up, you mess up your child's day. Because if you think you're going to feed them Cocoa Puffs and Captain Crunch, and they're going to run on sugar for 2 hours, and that's at 6 o'clock in the morning, by the time they show up to school at 8 o'clock, they're done. They're done. And guess what? They're hungry. So what are they doing? Schools try to make a good go of it, of having healthy snacks in the vending machine, but they're not that healthy. So what do? We want to feed them things like a good hearty breakfast. If your kids are into a warm cereal, give them oatmeal, not that instant stuff that you add water and stir. If they like eggs, you can boil 6 or 12 eggs and you can have them ready to go in the morning. Put some hot water on it, ready to go. They can have that with some sausage, with some tomatoes, with some toast, some whole wheat toast. But you want to make sure that when they leave from your site in the mornings, that they're fed, that they've got energy in their body to get them into that learning gear. Having a calendar, something simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. Whether you have a Google Share calendar for your whole family or something as simple as a calendar, get your meals in order. When my daughter was in school, I was the queen of the crock pot. Why? Because you could throw everything in the crock pot in the morning, turn it on, and by the time you got home, dinner was ready. Your house smelled amazing. And there's something about happy kids when you bring them home after a tired day and you open your front door and they can smell good home cooked food. Prepare for that. It's so much easier to spend 4 hours over the weekend going to the supermarket, coming home and prepping for the week of breakfast and lunch than it is to be tired from work, to have tired kids that you're picking up from aftercare or sports. And now you're coming in to cook a meal from scratch. That's not good planning. Why? Because the next important thing for your children to have to grow healthy bodies and minds is good sleep. Sleep is vital to our children. I once had a girlfriend who would pick up her son who was in first grade at 6:30, get home, and he had about an hour of homework. About literally a second or third grader having an hour's worth of homework. And she told the teacher, we're not doing the homework because he needs at least 9 hours of sleep. So I can't feed him, bathe him, and get 9 hours of sleep if you give him an hour's worth of homework. Eating and sleeping are vital. Their bodies heal, repair, and grow when it's sleeping, when it's asleep. So maybe you have middle schoolers who like to watch TV in the middle of the night. Have them put it on a timer that it goes off at a particular time. I know this sounds like a big one for some parents. Maybe you need to take the cell phone and their Xbox out of their room so they can go to sleep. Sleep is important. If you treat sleep the way you treat your diet, I guarantee you just won't have healthy, happy children. You'll have healthy, happy children, happy teenagers, and happy adults because it starts today if we do not pay attention to our children's diet. What is a healthy choice? When we walk into the supermarket, I have to say this because I do believe this. A lot of my contemporaries will say there are no bad food choices. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg to differ. These food manufacturers, they target our children. They market to our children. They market poorly constructed food, or what should I say, what they call food for our children that does their bodies no good. I use an app called Yuka, Yuka. It's a free app. And like any free app, it's worth its weight in gold. And what I like about it is here are some kidney beans that you can buy in any store. You hit the barcode, and it'll tell you right there that this is excellent. And it'll tell you why it's excellent. It's excellent because it's 100% vegetable. It has 5 grams of protein. It has the calorie count on that is 100 calories for half a cup. Now, when you go into the store and you're buying snacks for your kids and you pull out that app, I guarantee you, you will be shocked at what we market to children and just how poor it is. So these are some of the things as a health coach that I work with families and individuals, how to make your health a priority. Because when your body is well, you can do all the things that you want to do. But when you are not well, you only want one thing, and that is to feel well. So I'd like to introduce you to our next speaker. That is Professor Winston Mundy, who's going to talk about how we can have structure and educational sparks into our children's lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Professor Mundy to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And just wanted to share with you a few elements on rekindling the spark for learning. And make sure I get my timer in place. And at this point, just share with you 10 tips on just 10 tips on rekindling that spark. And tip number 1,
I think Winsom's tech froze for a minute. So we're going to wait till she gets back on. But that spark, I'm so excited for learning. If you can put in the chat that app.
Oh, absolutely.
That everyone can get, especially it's free.
It's
If we
free.
can get that app so that we can have that tool, I think that would be really helpful. Um, and when I think about family meal time and the importance and the value of family meal time, I think about the research that have shown that children who eat together with their families gain so much from that opportunity. They have increased vocabulary. They learn important skills like etiquette. They learn about sharing. They learn how to effectively communicate. Family meal times and showing that you're engaging in family mealtime is such an important part of the creating the home that I was talking about and leading in the home as we were discussing. So that was so important, and I need that app. And I'm sure all
It's
of
in the
us
chat.
on can get that app and really ensure that we are even more knowledgeable about the foods that we are consuming. And when you said don't use the instant oatmeal, I think about so many things that um, are supposed to help make having breakfast easier. And so as a parent, we're thinking that I'm still giving them oatmeal, right? But I didn't look to see how much added sugar has been placed into that instant
Salt.
pack,
Mhm.
or how much more it was processed. And so it is, if you prepare a pot of oatmeal and put it in individual containers, you'll still have done the same thing and spend less money
Absolutely.
if you do that. And so, that was really, really important that we plan out the meals, and the children could be part of the planning. They could be part of the
Children will
prepping
eat.
process, right?
Right.
And it,
One of the things, Arlene, is that when kids help prepare meals, they will eat it a lot more so than if you serve them something. If they make the salad, they will eat it. They may drown it in dressing, but they will eat it. We think about meal prepping as one of those words that just makes us think that we have so much work to do. But meal prepping could be just maybe if you're making a chicken, instead of make one, make two. So you have some for the rest of the week. If you're making a pot roast, maybe buy a larger one so that you have more for the week. And instead of thinking that it's a lot of work. So I think Professor Mundy, are you ready to go?
I am. My apologies. I have no idea what happened. My
Technology.
connection dropped and I just kept on spinning. So,
called technology doing its thing, but we're
yes,
good.
indeed. But we are ever prepared for that. So, that is always a good thing. So, let's try this again. And let me go ahead and share. Okay. Okay, I think we should be good to go now. Let's see. All right. Oops.
We are ready for tip number one.
I know. Okay, there we go. All right, so, and I guess I give a little introduction here. I'm Winsome Mundy, and I'm an adjunct professor at Broward College. I also, by day, I am a senior business systems analyst. And recently I registered my company, Chaos Disruption, of which I am the chief executive disruptor. And I absolutely love children, love young people. I'm an advocate for them. And I'm an advocate for learning and learning in fun and interesting ways. At Broward College, I teach math and statistics, and I am an advocate for math. Math gets a really bad break with so many people not liking it and being anxious about it. And it just scares some people. I've had students who we've had to kind of do have our sessions, our class turn into a therapy session where we can talk about things and share, and they're like, oh, you feel that way too. And so we build this community that supports each other. And when they need to, they pull out the brown bags to when they're hyperventilating. But math gets a really bad rap in life, and I'm an advocate in making sure that the appreciation for math is everywhere that I go. And with that, the first tip that I have is to encourage reading at least 15 minutes each day. Before I got disconnected, I had shared that the Department of Education has indicated that children learn to read up to grades 3, and then grade 4 onwards, they're reading to learn. So it is very key that in those first formative years, we ensure that children they're reading, they're engaged in reading, they're comprehending and enjoying reading, enjoying imagining, enjoying new words. And tip number 2 flows into that. Constantly learn and use new words. I remember there were these two young boys at my church who every Sunday they had to have a new word for me. And they were brothers, and they had to provide that word. They had to spell it. They had to give me an explanation. They had to tell me what it meant. And then they had to use it in a sentence. And one morning their mom came to me and she said, "How do you do it? When I'm coming to church in the morning, they're like, oh, we have to make sure we have our words from Miss Winsome." She's like, if I could get them to have that kind of enthusiasm about everything else that they do, I would be set. But it makes a difference, because when children start to learn these new words, and when they start to use them in the proper context, by the time they're ready to, from high school, their vocabulary has expanded so much, and they're also able then on all of their standardized tests, they're able to do very well. They're able to speak well, they're able to verbalize what it is that they want to say, they're able to communicate. And that makes a world of difference in their leadership capabilities and just how they're perceived. So I do encourage you to constantly learn and use those new words. Tip number 3, create teachable moments everywhere at any time. And with this, sometimes learning gets a little messy. So you're in your kitchen and you want to teach your little ones how to write their ABCs. While you're kneading the flour, you can put some flour on a little table for them, and they can trace those letters in the flour. Now, we know it's going to get messy, but the dividends and the payoff for that is it's worth it. When you're looking at, even cutting up your chicken, you put a piece of chicken on their plate, and cutting it in halves, in quarters, in thirds, teaching them fractions, but using the practical everyday things to bring learning to life, and not make learning a thing that's a punishment. Go to your room and read. No, it should be, Mom, Dad, I want to read. I want to read this story and I want to tell you about it. I want to read it to you. So as you're preparing the meal, have them in the kitchen reading to you. Have them and after they read it, have them tell you about that, so that you're ensuring that you understand. You're checking on them to see if they're comprehending. So make everything that learning laboratory, and you will see the returns on that so quickly that you would be surprised. You're going outside, looking at street signs, looking at buildings, looking at shapes, just anything, looking at the clouds. What are you seeing in the clouds? Just broadening their imagination. I remember as a child, and sometimes, even now I still do it, but not as often. But we would look up in the clouds and we would see animals and trees and palaces and castles and dragons and dungeons and just about anything, you name it, we were seeing it. And that is the rekindling of the spark for learning. That is how you're able to do that. So engage your children at every level at all times. And you would be surprised how well that comes across. One of my friends, she has a little 5-year-old, and they're learning to cook. And now he has to learn to pour things, to measure things. And so he's got to be amazing in his math classes. And just even in terms of his, just his spatial orientation, just his cognitive abilities, all of those are being sharpened by just learning to follow a recipe. So parents, I encourage you to grab those teachable moments when something doesn't go right. Teach them about that. How did you react to this? Well, the situation wasn't quite right. So it's not just the reading and the math, but even in those social skills. teaching them how to handle a situation. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you're like, I guess they must be going somewhere that they need to be in a hurry. I hope they get there safely. Even in things like that. And as Arlene had mentioned, that indeed we do, our children model our behavior. Tap into your child's learning style and interests. If your child likes to draw, then maybe to get a gauge on their comprehension, have them, after they've read a story, have them draw about that story and tell it to you. And you would be surprised how creative, again, that they get. But you also realize that, ooh, they're getting it. They are being creative, they're comprehending. And so for your little ones, you know that when they get to 4th grade, they'll be set, right? So make sure that we do that as well. And at an early age, have your child become involved in the community. That will teach them to care for others, also to, just to be around others, is developing their social skills and, their understanding, their public speaking as well. And it prepares them for, we all know, high school and those community service hours. So getting them in early and having them have an appreciation for doing for others will definitely assist that transition as well. Encourage good study habits. Make sure that at the end of the day, they're reviewing the information that they have gotten. Those index cards come in handy. They're writing things down, making sure that they remember the definitions, that they understand the concepts, that they're working through those math problems again, that they're learning their words in English, they're using them in sentences, and just continuing to expand on their knowledge. Tip number 7, provide a space for mind breaks. Our children are always on if we allow them. They cannot do without that phone, without that iPad, without that Wii, without that Xbox. They're always wanting to connect to technology. And so we need to ensure that we disconnect them from technology from time to time. And again, as Lorraine and both Lorraine and Arlene mentioned, with taking their cell phone from them at night, but ensure that they have a time just to where they can create. And one of my nieces, her thing is she would just kind of pace back and forth. And my nephew, another nephew is like that too. And at first their parents were like, what is wrong with these kids? It's like, leave them alone. That's how they're formulating their thoughts, and they're putting things together. It's like, okay, I have this big project to do. How am I gonna do it? While I'm pacing, I'm thinking about things, I'm putting things together, and I'm getting stuff done. So allow them to do that if that is how they operate. But if it's the case where they're just always constantly, wanting the technology, then you have to remove that from them. Have them do something creative. Have them write. Have them, have them draw if they like to draw. A young lady that I know, I was looking at all her work and her encounter. This is my first time in mixed media, and she's going, and I'm looking at the stuff, and I'm like, we need to have a show just for you with all the things that you have done. So allow your children and encourage them to move past the technology and pull out some of those creative juices that is there. Tip number 8, capitalize on family time. Those before me have mentioned it already, but take the time when you're at the dinner table and making sure that there is at least one day a week where you do this, and have them share things about themselves. If they're, let's say they're playing the piano, schedule some time for family piano recital, or have them, tell us stories. If they're storytellers, if they're artists, whatever it is that they do, give them the time to express themselves and share their experiences and their knowledge. That goes a long way in building and encouraging your children. Which leads me to tip number 9, constantly encourage your children and expand their horizons. So, we have too many people who will discard our children or negate things about them. So it is up to us to speak positivity into their lives, to let them know that there's greatness within them, to let them know that they can do anything that they put their minds to, and not to let anyone put them down. And with you constantly being that source, saying that to them, they will believe it. I'll share with you one of the youth at my church. I said to her, I was like, you're amazing. And she just kind of looked at me. And a few months passed, and she came up to me, Miss Winsome, I got all A's. And so I looked at her and I said, and she looked at me and then she burst out laughing. And I said, you're not telling me anything new. I said, I knew you always had it in you. I just had to believe it for you until you could believe it for yourself. And she looked at me, gave me the biggest smile, and she's like, okay, I believe it for myself now. And I said, well, I'm going to still continue to believe with you, but I'm glad that that mantle has now been passed to you. So there are times when you might say things to your children and they're looking at you like, you're crazy. But continue to say that, continue to be positive, continue to encourage them. And they will hear that in their minds when they're feeling like they can't do something. They're like, Mom always says that I can do anything I put my mind to. Dad always says that, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. And with those, being able to have them hear those words rehearsed in their heads, in a time when they need it most, they will hear it and they will be encouraged. Tip number 10, the final tip: become involved in your children's school and be the present parent. Children whose parents are active in school, they get treated differently because the teachers know that the parents are watching. And so nothing's going to pass those parents. And so they need to make sure that they're on their A game. And that is what teachers want as well, to know a child has someone, an advocate for them, someone who is present and who will be there for them. It does make a difference. And it makes a difference for the child as well, to know that, Mom's got my back, Dad's got my back, I can do this. It makes the world of difference. And so partner with that school, partner with those teachers, and ensure the success of your child. I'll leave you with an example. One of my students came to me and she was like, Professor, I got a bad report from my child today. The teachers are saying that my child is so bad. And I was like, what happened? And she said, well, and this is a kindergartner, well, he had the entire class marching around the classroom. And I burst out laughing. I said, he's not bad. I was like, that's a born leader. How can any kindergartner who can corral all of his peers and have them marching around a room, that's a leader. That's not a bad child. And I said, that teacher could use him to her advantage. She could give him instructions and he could teach the class while she sits down and relaxes. So with that, it's it's all in how you look at it, right? And so many times when people aren't at the right level, they'll say, the kid is bad, the child is rude, and so on. But let us not give into that. Let us always make sure that our children know who they are and what they're capable of doing. So with that, I will turn it over to Deandra. Is Deandra here?
Yes,
And
I am
we
here,
will take the floor
Winsome.
for next speaker.
Yes, I
Thank
am here,
you.
Winsome. And thank you so much for everything. That was absolutely amazing. And although I am done with school, I took notes and am heeding some advice from the tips that you've given. So thank you so much for all of that advice. And I would like to now take the time to introduce our very last, but also very important speaker, Mr. John Henry. He is a personal discipline and accountability professional at school. And I can only imagine what advice Mr. John has for us today.
Wow, how am I really going to step in the path of what I just heard? How powerful. And in a perfect world, what all of us and what I've heard already would be ideal for our community to be successful in our community schools. But we're not in a perfect world. And our kids come in with various challenges. And that's the piece. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. So when you're working in our communities, and most of us are living within the communities and our kids go there, and if you're a Title I school provider, which we are at my school, and I've always worked in Title I school, the greatest challenges are there. And to empower and to develop a level of resilience for our students and our family to want to be involved in their child's education. And that is one of the biggest challenges that we face. So to empower the parents to know that as long as you're in a public school, you have rights. There are laws there to protect you. There's laws there to support your child. Being prepared with a parent working 2 jobs and the child is staying at grandma's house and they have to get ready for school the next day is challenging for so many people. So we have to be able to know what our school offers. We have to know those individuals within the building that is willing to listen to us, to understand our concern. There's always a human being that is willing to support. We have to connect to those people in our community schools. So what I'm encouraging is for parents to reach out. Just don't enroll your child and you don't see your teacher or your child's teacher again for the whole school year. You haven't even signed off on a child report card. Be involved. There's so much various technology now, classroom dojos, where the teachers, the schools are sending you updates of how to be involved in the school setting. That is one of the most important intervention in supporting your child. Whether they're eating or not, we have a 98% breakfast program. 98% of our kids come to school in the morning has free and reduced lunch. And we have set up a dynamics in the school that even if a child is coming in and they're late, the front office must ask, do you need something to eat? Smile, good morning, do you need something to eat? The parents have to know that those levels of services are there for their children and support. If the child is hungry, if the child is fatigued, they're not going to be strong students. So then an individual as myself, I have to go in and work with that family, build a trust, build a support. And it's important that families know. For example, we just started school here, and a family that has had several students gone through our school system. So it's like 5 generations. So this parent is at their last 2 students. So she came and she said, I've been under the McKinney-Vento Act, which means that they are homeless. We work with them. The kids live 2-3 miles away from the school, but the bus will bring them back to their neighborhood schools. We have to be able to reach out to those 15-20% of that population. A lot of the kids have what on this panel has stated already, some security within their family system, and we want that to be stronger. But what happens to that 15% that just doesn't have it? The parents need to know, if they fall in this category, that your school system offers a high level of support to support you. And we have to empower that level of socioeconomic base to understand they have rights, and to be able to come in and gain the level of support that can at least allow their kids to feel like they're in a safe zone, because safety is important, a loving, nurturing zone that they can learn, and that level of feeling and being successful. And that's where that youth mental health component comes in. And although it was finally recognized on the Governor Rick Scott through the Margie Stoney Douglas shooting, where the mental health bill was passed, we have suffered for a long time without that level of services within our community. So the mental health component is just to be there within the building to provide services. The parents have all rights to know what is happening. They can even participate. And to build that caring, supportive, you have concerns that we can connect with, so the child can feel that their voice and their behavior is important also. So the mental health component is what we have to help parents to understand. Especially over the past 3 years, we've seen so many various stresses. We see it in the society. We see the distortions of the various cultural pieces that the parents have the same access, but the kids have the same access to. So the information is no longer, oh, the parents are having this access of information and the kids don't. It's given to all individuals who are on social media. The kids know what is happening in their society. The issue is that sometimes they just want to distort it out because it's so shocking to them that they stay up all night and they do their YouTubing and TikTok, and they come to school shocked, just completely distorted, not ready to be that academia person that they need to be. So we have to work hard. If any of the family members are going through that we're hoping to reach today, and the challenge is because their students, their child is going into a school setting that will have that level of distraction around them. So how do we support them in recognizing that and supporting a classmate? Those things are important. Those cultural piece of building them to be a friend, to support a friend. If you see something, say something. That's what builds the safety band within our public school system. I cannot speak for the various charter schools or private schools, but I know that within our public schools, through the school-based team, through your single school culture, all aspect of supporting your child is recommended by various statute of the law. So if you have a child that is an immigrant, the law determines how the school system have to support your child. If you are that immigrant that don't have papers, the school doesn't have the right to force that on any parents to say, well, your child can't register because you are not a citizen. It doesn't exist. And a lot of parents who are here in this country trying to do their best. And I'm speaking to that demographics because our schools have that. And those are the children and the families that are just pushed away. They're invisible. And we need to encourage them also that they do have support. And within that support, we can build a healthy, strong child that the parents envision that they hope the best for their child. Some of the things that we have been exposed to over the past year and a half with the Haitian and the Caribbean, and the community coming from Haiti, going through Brazil, coming up through Mexico, we have a lot of that. And when you hear the children and the fact that they're trilingual, they can speak Spanish, they can speak Portuguese, and you look at them and they say, I don't understand English, but the system is saying, what we're going to do with them. The parent needs to also come in and join. So we make that reach out to reach that community, pull them in, encourage them to come in, have lunch with your child, come and meet the teachers. We have to be very creative, and we do that. We offer lunch. We will even have lunch programs through the various food banks that will drop the food off, so they know that they have support in that building. So it's not to say just about the opening, but how do you open when a high percentage of your population is still struggling just to get their kids to school across the board? So those pieces are very important in how we engage our school community and the reach out that we have to have. And I want the parents to know that as long as you're in a public school, they do have those resources to support you in no matter what your struggles are and how we can build that individual to be a better student in their academic future. And that's imperative to me. And I'm glad that I'm in the school behavioral health professional, because it gives me the angle to use everything within the school laws and within the community to provide services. And we're very unique. I have an awesome group of people that I work with and the outreach. So those pieces are important for the parents and the child to understand that they can come in and feel safe and loved and respected, although some of their peers may have a $200 Jordan shoes on, and they're fine with who they are and how they're coming into school. And that's imperative because it shows across the board. And we must utilize the support that the law states that our public school must provide to that community. And I don't think a lot of parents are aware of that.
John, everything you said is so important. I really would like to broach the question. Though the community you just spoke about also have what I would call their defenses up,
Exactly.
where they are not feeling comfortable and often don't feel welcome to come into the schools because it's intimidating and they may not understand. What are the strategies can we talk about for that, to help minimize that barrier that often leaves them with, I've seen children being the translator for their parents, and so that because the children are the translator, they're controlling the narrative
Right.
of what the parents are hearing.
Right.
Um, helping to the parents to know that these resources are available and that they have a right to it is phenomenal. And I thank you for the work that you're doing in the trenches, right there in the schools, serving our children.
Thank you. And I think the big pieces we have several language facilitators. So when we doing our enrollments and things of that nature, the parents will stand back and you see the child trying to interpret. But we have the language facilitator come right on in. We invite the parents in and they just share what their needs are and their concerns. And then from there, we start moving. So it's a lot of communication. It's a lot of outreach. We do a lot of home visits. If we don't see you after 6 days, we're coming to your house. So it's a constant marching to reach that child. We had a student last year, mother passed away. His father was an agricultural worker, so he would leave at about 4 o'clock in the morning. The student didn't show to school. We would knock on the door. And finally, all of his teachers, the language facilitator, and myself went knocking. And the student was convinced that he needed to come to school. He was one of the most brilliant child. He reached all 5s on the FSA: math, science, and reading. And he knew that we cared because our community schools, it feeds a certain zip code area. So these kids have been there, their brothers, their sisters, they've been there for the past 14 years. So we know how to target. We know how to go out and reach that family. We have a relationship that we have been building over the years. So when we harness up to say, let's go, and you have that support, that's how you bring those kids in. And that young man, when he was graduating last year, I was just teared up because he lost his mother. He was hurt. He was traumatized. He was taking care of his younger siblings. And he didn't feel that he should be in school. But we went and showed him why it's important to be in school, because now you have to be in school so your younger siblings want to do the same thing too. Empowering work that I know our school is not the only school that have that unique position, but I can tell you this, the behavioral health, the youth mental health component to identify those stresses and not take lightly the tardiness of students not being in school or the absenteeism and just write them off as truants and pass that file down to the truants officer. We don't do that. It's an outreach from the school itself.
And so to everyone here, thank you, John, to everyone on the panel, this event we called it Beyond the Backpack. And we are looking at the mental and emotional, physical and spiritual preparation that children need in order to be successful. And when we look at all the things we brought to the table today, we're looking at the whole child. And so often when we are hearing back to school, the focus is on a book bag drive and having those school supplies. And while that is important, we know that our children, parents, your children are stressed. They are stressed and they don't know how to handle the things that they're being exposed to and the world that's going on around them. And they're anxious. This is the first time I've heard the level of anxiety or the awareness of the level of anxiety. It may have been there before and not necessarily spoken about, but now you're hearing the level of anxiety. There's more an understanding that children have test anxiety. And to Ms. Mundy's point, that they're having math anxiety. And the manner in which we are speaking with our children, sometimes our words are not that encouraging. It's sometimes derogatory, and we're not realizing the impact of that. And so, each and every one of you presented so much key information. I just wanted us to either one, see if there's any questions coming from our chat, and or two, any other closing points from the speakers that you each heard from each other that you'd like to feed further to the audience?
This is Winsome again. I just wanted to go back, put in another plug for math. I tell my students, it's like math is everywhere.
That's right.
And I hear one of my students, she was like, Professor, that's my favorite quote. And then we did something, and then she said it. It's like math is everywhere. So it became contagious, and it's all about how we the perspective we give to different things, right? So I encourage parents to, again, be positive in everything, and just allow that positivity to be in your home, to be in your environment, and allow your children to feed on that positivity as well, and allow them to step away from the negativity. Because that energy really is important. It's important to be positive. It's important to be around positive people, because you can be positive as ever, and a negative person comes around you, and it's like they start draining you. And at that point, there's a phrase in Jamaica where we say, "Take away yourself." So, move away from that person, go back and find more positive vibes and work with those. So just be aware and always ensure that you have a positive environment around you to nurture you and to push you into success.
That's right.
Any other points? One of the things I always used to say to my daughter is the attitude, and she probably can finish the statement. The attitude in which you approach a thing impacts the experience. To your point, Winsome. So that attitude is so important. And we, as the leaders in the house and as parents, need to be mindful of what's our attitudes. And I always say that whatever we don't deal with comes out in our parenting. And so if I have a phobia, or if I have a issue with math, or learning is a challenge, or I'm not a big reader, an advocate for reading, or I'm not eating healthy or whatever, my behaviors will then reflect onto that child. And so when parents can have that positive attitude about math and help children begin to develop that positive attitude about math, when they're feeling discouraged about math, I'm traumatized about math because how I was dealt with as a child, it wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy to beat me till I learned that times table. I'm sorry, it wasn't healthy. But to our parents, when we can have the opportunity to encourage our children and really help them to be excited about learning, because they feed off our excitement. And when some of the kids feed off your excitement, and John, they feed off of your heart. Kids know when you're genuine, and they feed off from your heart. And then the parents can see the genuine commitment to support and serve. And that helps them tremendously.
That's right.
I have a question. Go ahead.
Yes. So the audience question is for those students who, work during the summertime, because unfortunately they're the ones who have to support either their siblings or the household. So mainly high school students. How do you support those students who have had summer jobs and trying to prepare them to get back into school mode and not trying to take on all the woes of the household, and having essentially work-life balance if necessary?
That's a really good one. John, you want to tackle that?
Yes. And, over 15% of the high school population, they're taking care of their families. They're working. They're contributing to other homes. And for those students, if they were aware of the fact that they can contact and work with their guidance counselors, get work experience credit, being prepared to have the counselors support them in doing various what you would call apprenticeship work. So they're building in their work discipline to a better working condition of things that they would feel practical in being a part of. Those pieces, they need to reconnect back to their guidance counselors in school, because there's so much resources out there for them to get into this new technology wave. Look at where we're going. It's not stagnant, it's not hopeless. But if they don't reach out to talk to their guidance counselors, see the various new trending ideas of employment for them at their age, then they can build on that. And I think that, again, knowing what's in your building that can support you.
Absolutely. And we know there's work study. I remember I had the opportunity, my part-time job, I also got, to what you said, I got credit. So there's so many different ways, but I also would like to encourage the parents of the child to know that while the financial contribution to the family is important, the ability for that child to connect their work with their learning,
Right.
because everything that they're learning is also in their school environment. So when you can help them learn how to take that math and understand budgeting with their paycheck, or take the different things in communication or problem solving that they may have in their work environment, working in teams, that's also part of their learning experience. So there's an opportunity for them to see the practical of what they've been doing at work applied to their educational environment, and also identify opportunities for apprenticeships and other pathways. As oftentimes we encourage children that it's only college, and that's what we push. But there's so many paths to careers, and that guidance counselor is that person that's there in the school environment to help give you that resource. And the last thing I tell parents, and I tell this to our kids, that device that you have in your hand that you use, you have access to so much information and resources and tools beyond just scrolling through social media. You can check out My Next Move and really learn more about careers and career pathways and the skills that you're learning now and how they can be applied. So it's a delicate balance. It's a serious delicate balance, but you can do it. I did it. It may not be easy, but we can work and still learn at the same time.
That's right.
Are there any other questions? All right. Well, I just wanted to highlight and recap as we close. So first of all, thank every speaker. Thank you, John, for the heart in which you serve. Thank you, Lorraine, for the spirit in which you seek to elevate our community with nourishment of both their mind, body, and spirit, and helping them to realize that it's not just about the food they eat, but it's how we are sleeping, the physical activity we're doing, and how we could be doing that as a family. Thank you for that. Winsome, thank you for the spirit. Winsome, I have a math phobia, and it's real. I'm traumatized from math, but Winsome, when she talks about math, I get excited about math. And that excitement is contagious, that energy is contagious. And her passion and your passion, Winsome, for learning and sharing that insight. I can remember taking statistics in college and I hated it. And when I hear you teaching your class, I'm like, I want to be in Winsome's class because it sounds so exciting. So that energy, parents, we can bring that energy at home. We can infuse that energy in our homes and ensure that our children have that joy and that excitement for learning. Instead of telling them go read a book as a punishment, reading a
Mhm.
book is a joy, because so often that's what we do and we don't even realize we're subtly changing their perception of reading, right? So you got in trouble, go in the corner and read a book, right? So now I equate reading with punishment,
Mhm.
right? And I've taken away the joy of that. But imagine if we made reading fun. We made, my daughter, one of her gifts she liked to get is a Barnes and Noble gift card, because we made reading fun. We made the value of books. We valued books. And so our kids emulate what we practice, right? We set aside time for reading. So I just think it's really, really critically important, that we maintain that leadership posture. And that leadership posture, parents, means that, John, that as a parent and as the leader, we do things even when we're scared. We do things even when we feel intimidated, because we know that our children are counting on us. They're relying on us to be their voice. They're relying on us to be their protector. They're relying on us to create a pathway and create that safe place for them to learn, grow, and thrive. And so, as we're doing that, we're going to do this thing called parenting scared,
That's right.
sometimes unsure,
That's
but
right.
finding those allies and those people. Because I truly believe about the village mentality. I didn't raise my daughter by myself. There's a team of people who helped me do that, right? And so I really encourage parents to step out of the isolation, where we are scared to connect with others, and really get back to that place of community where we recognize that there are resources around us to help us to tap, to strengthen our insulation of the environment that can ensure that our children have a successful and awesome learning experience. So I just want to thank you all for the time you've taken today to help us to go beyond the backpack and to help us really realize what we could be doing, as a community to help our children thrive. This is IC Group, and I am Arlene Connolly Drummond. And IC Group provides coaching for parents. We come alongside parents and families. We come alongside you to help you strengthen your leadership posture. We work with the family as a group, and we help the family to thrive. We put on events and activities and conferences and experiences to ensure that families grow and build stronger bonds. We believe in the importance of families, and we believe in the importance of the role of fathers in the household or in the family unit, really helping to support families. And so that's our work, that's our passion. Our mission is to restore the vision for vibrant relationships, thriving families, and stronger communities. And that means we are here for you. We come alongside you, and we're here to be your coach, your cheerleader, your supporter, your tools, your resources to ensure that your family thrives. So, thank you so much for joining us, and for taking time to really pour into your children. We are here to partner with you, and know that you are not alone, because IC Group is here. Have a great evening.